Hello and welcome to Sounds Heal Podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Brown, and thank you so much for joining me as we continue to explore the fields of sound healing, sound therapy, and generally the use of sound for health and wellness. First, I want to say how wonderful it was to meet so many of you at the International Sound Therapy Conference in Sarasota, Florida in September. It was just such an uplifting event. And I'm still just so amazed of how great it was to connect with so many of you, with the presenters, with the performances, and just what a beautiful time we had. I'll be sharing more about the ISTA conference in the upcoming episode of Sound Healing News coming out later this month. And also the panel discussion that I moderated at the conference will be released as a podcast coming up this year yet. And that panel discussion included Joshua Leeds, Sarah Auster, Ben Carroll, Mike Tamburo, and Mandara Cromwell. So very excited to release that out to everybody. I also want to share my wishes, my thoughts, my prayers to any of you that were affected by Hurricane Helene that came just days after many of us left the conference. And I just want to let you know I'm thinking about you and your communities, and I'm sending out the best energy I can to all of you for the recovery process. Today's episode is with the members of Chakra Garden, a frequency medicine experience. And the artists are Gar Den Boi, also known as Tyler Manning, Luke Andresen, and Adrienne White. And what they've put together, they're on the road right now. They're offering in-person events that has this blend of electronic tracks, acoustic instruments, along with movement, chanting, and other practices. Garden Boy is a Detroit music producer, and he's created this lush odyssey soundscape of bass, binaural beats, organic tones, as well as a collection of recordings of orchestral instruments that really bring the listener in this experience. And it's all been based on the 7 major energy centers. And then Adrienne and Luke of the Sound Medicine Collective match this electricity by guided movement, meditation, as well as times of rest for people just to be surrounded by these vibrations and sound instruments. So we learn a lot about how this came to be. Adrienne has so much yoga experience, and Luke as well, with his background of a veteran experiences that led him to yoga. And then, of course, Tyler Manning, or Garden Boy, has all his experience as a music producer and as well as yoga and meditation as well. So they just combine their passions into something that is extremely unique. And what I wanted to do is just to give you a little bit of a flavor of one of the sound experiences, one that's been released in the 7 series of their Frequency Medicine album. So right before this interview begins, you're just going to hear a small clip of the solar plexus bass bath, or odyssey for the solar plexus. So just about a minute of that. And know that later on in the interview, you will be able to see, especially if you're watching YouTube, youtube.com Sounds Heal Studio, you'll be able to see Tyler showing how this is put together through music software, how he's been able to incorporate all this. So that's really interesting to see if you're able to watch this. And we just talk about their philosophies, their experiences with the power of sound and intention. I think it's such a rich conversation. This episode is sponsored by the Om Shop and Spa. The Om Shop located in Sarasota, Florida, and online at theomshop.com, has the country's largest showroom of vibrational tools, custom instruments. They have trainings, workshops, and a luxury spa as well. If you're looking to add to your sound healing toolkit, absolutely touch base with them, look at their products online. They can really help you match and find that special instrument you're looking for. Thank you so much to the Om Shop and Spa for their sponsorship. Thank you all for listening, for tuning in. Please do spread the word about this podcast, subscribe, like, share all the things so we can continue to up-level this field of sound work and continue to learn together. Please enjoy this episode with Tyler, Luke, and Adrienne. All right, I want to welcome Tyler, Luke, and Adrienne, the members, the collaboration, the elevated experience of Chakra Garden that they've combined, their frequency medicine. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Really excited about your project. I mean, I've been able to kind of see some videos and hear some of the tracks, and I can only imagine in person what an immersive experience that is. It's really, really beautiful stuff. Let's just hear a little bit about you each, just kind of set the background before we get into what you're doing now. Tyler, do you want to just let us know a little bit about you and perhaps those things that sparked you to get into this work?
Yeah, so I come from working in the electronic music space about 10 years now, just throwing events and managing artists, helping different people in the bass music scene with different projects. And I've always been DJing and being around making music, but it was about a few years ago I really started making music myself. Really, it was COVID. It seems like it was like that for a lot of people, just diving into stuff. But yeah, after about 10 years of working in the space, I was always doing meditation and yoga a lot and bringing that kind of practice into these spaces where we're all staying up till 5 in the morning and everyone's partying all the time. And I always felt like it was important to bring that conversation forward. So when I started my music project, it was really important to find how I can integrate those kind of practices and the healing and the calming side of what bass music can be, because it's usually very high energy. There's a lot of it, and the scene I was coming up in at least was, dubstep, right? It was really aggressive use of the subwoofers, and I loved the subwoofer stuff, and I just didn't feel as aggressive as I grew into the music. So trying to figure out how to create these calming bass frequencies, I've been making music, and I finally, after a couple of years of making music during COVID, I finally decided to launch my project last year, 23, and I threw a launch party for my EP. And in the process of throwing that launch party, I had the Sound Medicine Collective here come and open, and they did a sound bath for everybody using the gongs and everything. And we were like, we should combine it. Like our idea was that we would just fuse it for a moment. So they would do the sound bath for everyone, and then I would kind of creep out from underneath that with my music and then go into my set. And that was kind of where it started, where we were like, all right, you have your thing, I have my thing, we'll like slowly meld them together. And then afterwards, the conversation just kept growing about, well, what if we actually made songs together and we really built this out? And then what was it? What was the next
We
inciting
kind of
moment?
all came up with it together.
Well, when you first put that into words of we really need to combine an experience
Yeah.
together, we I definitely felt strongly about not being random.
Mm.
I didn't want to just randomly be playing sound and randomly be playing, Tyler's music. I'm like, there has to be an anchor for the experience so it's more meaningful. And I guess I can pop in with a little bit of my background and then how that led to the Chakra Garden. So I've been doing yoga for more years than I like to admit. I started when I was about 18, just as a practitioner and using yoga as exercise in the beginning. But I started making the connection in my 20s through Kundalini yoga that yoga is just something to support your regular life. If I wanted to go out, I wasn't much of a partier, actually, still not. Like in bed at 10,
Yeah,
10
we go
most
to bed
nights.
early.
But I did like to go out and go dancing. And so I realized like, oh, if I do a Kundalini Kriya before I go out clubbing, I don't have to drink alcohol or anything. I've got all the energy I need and I'm just going to go out and dance. So I started those little sparks like, oh, yoga is something different. You can support whatever you want to do in life through your practice. So I started making those connections and then started studying more deeply, eventually became certified. And from there, I started attending sound baths and just love them. And so I've been attending sound baths for about 20 years, but it wasn't until people kind of stopped coming to our studio and presenting, everyone kind of wanted to stay home. And I was like, let's go. So I decided to take that on myself and went and did some trainings. And it's a little bit of a long and magical story of how it all came together, but that's essentially um, how I started leading the sound baths myself. Um, and part of my life's work has been really the study of energy through yoga, and the chakra system obviously is a key one. So when the conversation started, I was like, we need to figure out like an anchor. And since that's my real passion in life's work, and we have Garden Boi and the chakras, and as like a roadmap to the experience, we came up with the Chakra Garden. It felt like the perfect fit. So that's a little bit of how it all kind of came together as far as the theme. And I think it's just
Yeah.
one of many.
Yeah, I bet there's already visions in mind of what's next, I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah, and it was actually really amazing, Adrienne, to read your background and your trainings, just the variety of everything that you've kind of taken in that encompasses your work. Yeah. Yeah, why don't we go to you, Luke? Let's hear a little bit about your background and how you got into this.
Sure, yeah, I'm just here for the ride. So, yeah, initially it just started as a, supporting Adrienne in this endeavor, but I kind of fell in love with the instruments as well. And I'm a bit of a vocalist and just kind of, I don't know, I've never really picked up like a regular instrument, but I grew up rapping and, wordplay and singing and things like that. So, we've just kind of woven in all of our talents and gifts and started developing them more. And Tyler has been kind of coaching both of us. We're not like naturally great singers or anything like that, but we're
Luke's he's got some pipes. Tell her about your history too, and why you're so strong with the vocals and everything that you've built up.
Just in terms of like from just messing with the bowls and things like
Maybe
that.
like a little bit about what brought you into the scope with Adrienne and like
Sure.
working together in the
Yeah,
studio.
yeah. She just needed me for dumb muscle. That's all it really was.
That's not, I don't think that's what Tyler's getting at. Luke has a military background. I think that's why that's where we started in our collaboration together.
Yeah. We started in collaboration because I'm a strength trainer and I did that in the military as one of my collateral duties is just training people. I was a CB construction battalion, so I worked with special forces and just learned a lot from all those different communities. And so that's mostly what my specialty is strength training and things like this. But yeah, we collaborated together before we started the collective or anything. She had a shoulder issue. I was helping her rehab it, and I had some PTSD and a lot of mental, emotional issues. And all of the yoga that she shared with me has been a massive centerpiece of my healing and my growth and moving forward. And once she started getting really into the sound, it just the bowls are there, all the equipment's there. I'm playing them. I'm intonating with them, singing, just listening and just being intuitive. And that's kind of how we've mostly both. I mean, she's taken a lot of trainings now as well. But before we took the trainings, it was just all intuition. So
I basically bought a hand pan and gave it to Luke and said,
Oh,
you
yeah.
need to learn how to play that.
Nice.
Here you go.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just messed around with stuff until, none of this stuff is like hard to play. So you just start.
You just
Yeah.
start.
That's right. A lot of it is intuition and heart and curiosity and playfulness. And yeah, thanks so much for sharing that, Luke, too. And I'm curious from each of you with your way into this, right? You've each had kind of a different pathway into it. What do you find it is about sound, about music, that's such a good vehicle for mindfulness, for healing and transformation? What is it about this sound vibration aspect for you?
Can I can I
Yeah,
take
jump in.
one jump?
Yeah.
So for me, like in every religion, every context where, God speaks the world into existence. So there's that foundational thing for me is like vibration is the substance of life. And literally everything is vibration. The color, even this, consciousness is a vibration. This has enough consciousness to hold its shape. And it's vibrating at a particular level. Color is on the same spectrum as sound is on the same spectrum as physical matter. So it's all just a continuum and we just perceive it differently. So
Yeah, and then
That's right. Yeah.
then we have these magical boxes of crystals and trees that
Yeah.
put out these large vibrations that, I mean, for me, like, especially with the sessions we've been doing, it's like they're more or less 11-minute bass movements. So when this subwoofer is rattling the ground at this extended for a long period of time, like you forget it's even there almost, and you just become enveloped in this like blanket. And then when the subwoofer ends, it's like the blanket gets peeled off of you and you almost like come out of a cocoon every track. It's like you've been in this pocket for this amount of time and it allows you to go so deep. It almost like with these tracks specifically, I feel like it kind of there's nothing to focus on, but there's everything. It's all happening, but there's not like a lead instrument other than the sub that's just hanging out down there. So it's like it 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 builds a container for introspection because you're able to drift. And I think the sound bath in general the same way is like it just allows you to drift because there's not like a build up and a drop and a verse and a chorus and like a system that you're following. It's just this like loose dance into introspection that can go as far as you want to go. And last night, Luke just started repeating this like 3-note melody and he just kept doing it. And that was the moment when I felt myself go into this trance, was just like doing this melody over and over and just dragging it out as long as he possibly could. And I feel like that with your question is just that sound creates a container for thought and growth in the mind because it allows you to feel different emotions and things coming from places outside of your own mind and be kind of in a party vehicle almost.
Yeah, for me, one of the ways that I like to explain it is everyone has that moment where, a song comes on from your past and it just viscerally takes you right back to that moment. And you remember and feel and smell everything from that moment. So it's already a super powerful medium, just in any form. A song holds memory. And so we already all can feel that. I think everyone can relate to that experience of hearing something that's familiar and just takes you right there. So building on that, the sacred sound instruments, they start with intention, which is where meditation starts, yoga starts. The intention is super important. And those instruments that we consider to be sacred start with an intention of healing. There's a baby here hopping through. I don't know if you can.
Oh no, there you go.
He just literally hopped through the yard in front of us. That was
The little Bambi.
that was wild. By the way, we're in Jackson Hole, Wyoming at the moment, sitting in front of a studio called Home Yoga Studio. And we did a sound bath here last night. So we're just chilling in front of the studio.
Beautiful.
Beautiful
Crisp
setting.
morning. Yeah.
Floats are literally hopping by. So back to intention, these instruments are created from their inception with this idea of holding space for healing and meditation and to take you to something that's sacred. And so that is such a key because we know, for example, that water can hold memory, right? And so when you start with a word or an intention or something that's very beautiful and particularly for healing, that's why we call it sound healing. We're not healing you, we're not healing anyone, but it's the intention is there to hold space for people's healing. And so that's a really important aspect of why it's so powerful for people. And when they can start a journey with their own personal intention, and the instruments, as Tyler was mentioning, with that vibration that just sort of continues and continues, it's definitely been proven scientifically. We know it mystically already, but scientifically that can take people into the brainwave states of meditation. And when you're in those brainwave states of deep peace and relaxation, and you've planted a seed of intention, it's like all possibility is there. All possibility. And you can absolutely go to the brainwave states of delta, which is the deep, deep sleep. And I would say the brainwave states of connecting to pure consciousness, that all possibility is there. So for me, that's the magic.
Beautifully stated, all of you, really just tapping into the intention, right, which holds you in a container to almost get into a space where you can be part of that vibration that actually, Luke, you started with, right? You're just kind of tapping into the vibration of the cosmos and all that's there. And that's what's amazing, I'm sure, about the experiences that you're offering. It is everybody has a different experience, right? And it takes you where it needs you to. So let's get into what it is that you're offering. Kind of paint us a picture of what these experiences are like and how you take people through this journey.
Go ahead, lady.
Okay. Well, it really is a journey through your energy body. So again, everyone can have an experience of their physical body because we can touch it, feel it, it's very visceral. But the energy body is a little bit more of a mystical situation. So we can't open up and do surgery on our second chakra and fix it up and get it rebalanced. We have to do that through some other mediums. So what we're really offering here is an opportunity, again, for people to have an intention to rebalance, realign, come into harmony with their energy body. So for people who are not familiar with that, what does that mean? It's a little hippie.
Very woo.
Very woo. So, but it doesn't really have to be, because along the spine, we have nerve bundles that come out in certain areas. And there's a tremendous amount of energy and information that is flowing through those ganglia, is what they're called. So before we physically knew that, the yogis knew that there were areas in our body that were very powerful. And they could map the archetypes that went along with that energy. And so what happens is, as you are developing in the womb, they say at about 6 months in utero, your energy body, along with your physical body, starts to develop. And it continues throughout your childhood when you have very little control over your experiences, right? I mean, if you're having a negative experience in the home as a 6-year-old, you can't exactly pack your bags and go walking out and do your own thing. You're just kind of stuck there. And so your energy is formed from these experiences when you have very little power and control. And even the positive things, are developing and creating your energy body. So all of the stuff that I talk about really comes from yoga. It's not like Adrienne is saying this, it's all from yogic philosophy. So I like to point that out. So we have, as an adult, we have the opportunity, and I would venture to say the responsibility, to come into balance with our own energy. Because if we know it or not, taking in from other people and putting back out is very unconscious. And so it's affecting all of our relationships. It's affecting everything we do. And most of us are in reactivity, which just means you don't understand where these feelings are coming from because it's unconscious. And so as we study and learn about our energy centers, we can make that experience more conscious. And then we can come into response, maybe take a deep breath before we react. And now we're in a much better situation where we have a sense of mastery over our own emotions, our own experiences. But these energy centers are also affecting our physical health because they're attached to the glandular systems, the muscular systems, all of that stuff. So it's just an incredible medium for creating this experience. So I'm going to let Tyler talk about how he produced the music to go along with this, with these energy centers, because he really took a deep dive into studying and really getting into the archetypes and the feelings of these. But that's the base for the experience.
Yeah, the base.
The base.
The base for the
Yeah, good
experience.
Yeah, the experience as a whole is so there's a track for each chakra. They're each 11 minutes and 11 seconds. It starts with Adri opening up the portal. Sometimes we'll do the cacao in the beginning and have a little moment with that. Then we go through each track. There's a little pause in between of silence for room for just the sound instruments that we've been building in a little bit more, but more or less it's a journey through each 7 tracks. So yeah, so it's 7 tracks, 11 minutes and 11 seconds each. And each track is tuned to each Tibetan bowl that they have. And the bowls are based on the chakras. So the sub is tuned, which is actually, the root is C, and then it goes D, E, F, G, A, B in 444 hertz instead of 440 hertz, which is like most music is tuned to 440. But by just shifting the reference on the tuner, 4 hertz is like 10 cents. It tunes to the bowls. So each track is an extended subwoofer movement tuned to the bowls. And that's all it was when we first did it. It was just the subs and like a little bit of texture, like ambient pads and keys. And then when we would play through it, we would record everything. We would record the vocals. We would have musicians sit in and we would have them tune their instruments to the bowls as well. And I would play the keys and the flutes. And so after doing this 20, 30 times together in all these places, we recorded all these 2-hour sessions with sometimes like 10 layers, 15 layers at once. And then I went and I took all of those experiences that we did and I picked all the magic moments out from the different musicians for each track and I put them back on the tracks. So now when we play through the tracks, there's the cellos, the violins, the vocals, there's all these instruments kind of dancing around that aren't actually there. to complement the sub. And we're still working on this, like wondering how much of that we want to add to the guided experience and how much we want to keep it really simple for the guided experience. And then the unguided, when you're going and just listening on Spotify, it's like a little bit more elaborate with the instrument play and stuff. So we're still dialing that, but essentially the flow is it starts out with a light yoga experience that Adri guides, and Luke does a couple of songs, and we go through the first three chakras, moving a little bit more, doing some breath work, doing some light movement. Nothing that's like, if you're not experienced with yoga, you could still do them.
I would
After
say
that,
the yoga is really there to just support the archetypes, you know. So first chakra, physical body. So we do just 3 very simple sun salute A's, slow, as a body prayer. So it's like the movement is used to support the archetype.
Yeah. And then after that, we just move into an extended rest, Shavasana. Everyone's laying there and experiencing it. And it's like, it's a guided meditation, but really just for the beginning part. Adri really builds the container for people to go deep. And then from the heart all the way through, it's just the sounds. And we're just playing back and forth. I'm playing the back tracks of the subs, and there's certain things that we know are going to happen at certain points. Like during the third eye, there's like these 4 doors that we like crack through, and there's these like moments that we know are going to happen, but more or less we just kind of dance between the different instruments. And lately I've been stepping out from behind the computer and playing with them too, and so we're all playing gongs and bowls, and it's like just creating this binaural experience in the room, while underneath it all the sub is just holding people. And then we ease out, and Luke sings a really beautiful song, and then Adri sings a really beautiful song, and then we just kind of let it sit in silence. And at the end, it's funny, lately we've always been asking people like to tell us what it was like or ask questions and stuff, and everyone's like
they're heavily meditating.
Yeah.
They can
Yeah,
barely find words
Totally
probably right away. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the most of the experience.
Yeah.
it's a pretty cool, it's been really interesting to marry the 2 elements together. It's bringing new people in who are there just purely for the musical experience. So some people will just sit and observe. And then you have the yogis who, you know, are excited to already maybe know about sound bathing, and they really enjoy that. But to bring in the piece where we're really very intentional with everything. So the movement is very intentional. I call the first chakra the body prayer. Second chakra, we're starting to really move the feminine energy of Kundalini up the spine. So there's some intentional work. We use the seed sounds. So people get a first experience, maybe they've never chanted before, but it's super simple. So it doesn't feel intimidating. And, you know, using your own voice in yoga is extremely important. So mantra is so important in the practice of yoga. If you want to really transcend in yoga, you're going to have to do 2 things: learn pranayama and breath holds and chant. So we give people that experience in a way that's not intimidating. And I think people start to understand, like, the ultimate sound healing instrument is contained in their own body. You don't have to have these instruments that can be quite pricey, or have a musical background like Tyler, who knows how to produce tracks, but that everywhere you go, you actually carry your own sound healing instrument with you. It's like that simple. So we incorporate chanting, a couple of the seed sounds, and then Sat Kriya from the Kundalini practice of yoga, which is an entire practice in and of itself. 3 minutes, we have an entire room chanting Sat Nam, and it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful moment in the process. And then I think people are just like, wow, I'm ready to lay down now. They've cleared, moved, and use their voice, and then they can lay down and really receive that final wash through the heart and then into the upper chakras. So, say about that.
That's all I got to say.
That's all you got to say. Well, it
Uh,
sounds like such a rich experience, guys, you know, so immersive, but I love what you said about the simplicity of it. because of the intention, right? There's really purpose in everything that you've decided to do, which activates and enhances the experience. Yeah.
Well, the more conscious you become, I mean, at first your life's spinning out of control because you're starting to notice all these things that you aren't wanting to notice, and that's very challenging. And that's a big part of the practice. You know, I have a trauma-informed yoga practice as well. Trying to bring this more to the veteran community, which it really is starting to pop up more as well, and people in traumatized populations as well. And like for me and a lot of people in the materialist world, you know, I didn't believe in energy stuff. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't really believe in it. I didn't give any credence to it. You know, my hippie girlfriend was super into it, you know, and that's all great. And I'm here to support her and whatever she likes. But she had a couple of intense experiences and I started going like, okay, what is she talking about? You know, like I just didn't have any frame of reference for she couldn't share her experience with me with words. And then we met a woman in our area that had some energy exchange happen to her as well. And she had, you know, what I would just call mystical superpowers. And for me, there was just no denying the feeling of like an energy hand when she put her hand over me. And that's when I recognized, oh, wow, this is real. Yeah, this is real stuff. So that kind of opened me up. And I've had a number of experiences myself and just really recognizing like we can't necessarily quantify everything, and that's okay. You know, like a lot of this stuff is just going to remain mystical, and that maybe that's the point, you know, and the experience that we're crafting, maybe the point is that, you know, everybody has their own unquantifiable experience, and just to have the experience is worth it in and of itself. So
Yeah.
I think that whether it's just a pleasant experience and you just enjoy the sounds and moving your body a little bit, or whether you have something really deep, there's really something for everyone. So it can just be just like, oh, I'm just having this very pleasant experience of yoga and music, or it could go somewhere much deeper. I think we pretty much have someone in tears, you know, almost every time, and not in a negative way at all. Sometimes the tears are just energy moving. Sometimes the tears are of joy and just sweetness. And sometimes, you know, it's they're experiencing something maybe that happened in the past. We've had people who say, I just felt my mother visiting me there when, you know, I connected with her. Whatever it is, there's really something for everyone in music and yoga and all of the stuff. It doesn't have to be so intense or big. It can just be a really beautiful, pleasant musical experience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And I like what you both said because it shows so much that, you know, we can talk and try to explain these things and find the words, but it really is in the experience that we find that understanding, whether it's sound healing, Reiki, any kind of energy work. The experience is, yeah, and it kind of reveals whatever it needs to for each individual, their awareness, what they're ready for. And, you know, a couple of things you said, I have some curiosity now based on your setup, the scenarios that you're in. I imagine each space and even the acoustics creates a different experience. I'm kind of thinking of your setup and, of course, the people and the energy that come in. I'm just curious, based on being on the road, what's that been like? Just kind of, what was that?
Big crow or
Big
something
crow.
just
Yeah, you're having a full experience outside there.
Yeah, you really are.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean is like you just never know what's going to happen when you're on the road and the environment and you arrive, you're at this place. How do you make each venue a sacred space for this experience?
sonically too. I'll just speak on that because it's such a fragile listening environment. Like I've been DJing for 10 years, you know, and it's like, all right, we're going. Okay, if like a transition gets messed up a little bit, like, nah, we just keep going. People just are having a good time. But like in this fragile listening environment, even just picking up the guitar off of the stand, it like it can completely jar the whole room, just like the tiniest little noise. So it's such a fragile listening environment. And then we're sending all this sound right into Adri's mic in the center of the room where she's walking around teaching yoga. So this balance of like building that sonic container just from a sound perspective, like audio wise, like
Big challenge.
it's super challenging because I'm always riding the volumes on her mic and everything to try to like avoid feedback because the bowls already sound like feedback. It's so funny because we're doing this at festivals and we're putting it on these huge speaker systems.
Yeah, the crystal bowls. Yeah.
The bowl itself is the sound of feedback. And like naturally, as a sound engineer, when you hear that noise, you're turning
He
it
was
down.
freaking out the first couple times.
Yeah, you're like, ah, it's like a trauma response when you hear feedback. You know, the audience doesn't want to hear that. It gets louder. It can get crazy. So it's been an absolute wrestling match in a lot of environments between like what to mic, what not to mic, what volumes, and the subs. It's so crazy, Natalie. The subs, like I've learned through this experience that different things are in different notes. Like for example, we were at the Detroit Yoga Center, Detroit Yoga Lab, and every track there was nothing aggressively like really shaking in the room other than like the smoothness of the sub. But we got to the throat, G, and the exit sign about fell off the wall. Literally, I had to get up
And hold.
and hold the exit sign because it was like so loud. And so as we do this in different containers, sometimes the rooms are tiny little pockets of echo. Sometimes it's outside in a big field. Sometimes it's a larger room with like
Those
weird
subs
little
were
pockets.
insane too.
And yeah, we're getting really high fidelity audio every time we possibly can. So we're pushing like it loudly, and it's just sonically, I just wanted to share that. Like it's a very interesting experience with what to mic and what not to mic. And when we're sending these long, loud sub notes, it's really showing us like different things in the room are reflecting different notes. And when we're on stages at festivals, like the whole stage is this big metal container. So sometimes the whole stage is rattling for 11 minutes straight. I can hear it. The audience can't as much, thankfully, and most of the times it's happened, but I'm like, this is really scary. You know?
I think
That's
that just like
Nice.
the rest of yoga, you know, is like you have to have that if you can't be flexible, right? Then, you know, how are you really going to do this yoga thing? And I mean that, you know, mind flexibility. So it really is that opportunity for us to kind of let go of a little bit of perfectionism. And I have a different thing to do than Tyler does. So when we kind of talk about it afterwards, he's like, "Hey, can you come in, you know, and talk about this on this little moment and da da da." And honestly, for me in the moment, Tyler's got his thing he's doing, but I'm literally just channeling. I hardly even am aware of so much of those sounds unless it feels too loud. And we have our hand signals like take it down, you know, bring it up a little. But for me, it's just I'm just in the moment. So it really is very intuitive in that sense, even though we have a framework. It's a different experience every single time for sure.
It's crazy too because like I don't even hear the words she's saying a lot of the times. And I hear her like clearly, but I'm like listening to the sound so closely that a lot of these sessions I don't hear like how powerful the words are she's using until I'm going back and I'm editing and I'm like, wow. I'm like moved to tears as I'm editing these tracks. Like, when did she say this? You know, it's like we're all in our own little zones just trying to hold space and keep it safe. Keep it like the fragile listening environment. We have such a responsibility, it feels like, when these people are trusting us to be vulnerable in the space and like they're just listening with their most open ears. So I hope that answers the question.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that was so many great nuggets there. And yeah, just learning to adapt, be flexible, embrace the moment, whatever happens in the scenario that you're in. And it sounds like you're tuned in. You're just really tuned into what you're doing, whether it's your own experience or holding space for people. Yeah, I imagine that's just really fascinating, kind of coming into whatever venue and like, okay, we're gonna make this work here. And yeah, I was just thinking when you were saying, you know, I've had experiences in a sound bath where I'm playing a bowl and then a siren goes off and it's the exact same note. Or like Or a train goes by and you're like, oh,
Yes.
I'm gonna work with the train, you know, that's a
Yeah, and it just
perfect
feels
moment to,
perfect.
yeah, you make it work. Or, you know, I've had a helicopter go over
Yeah.
and just bringing in the gongs with the helicopter. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
You know,
gonna share a moment, and I don't even remember what was happening, but we were at an outdoor festival a couple weeks ago, and I don't remember what led to the situation, but we had Luke do rap because something was going on,
Oh, the
and he
power.
started, oh, the
Yeah.
power went off.
Mm.
So Luke started, can you give us a little rap, Luke? Give us a little
Oh, man.
demonstration. Come on.
You ain't got an inkling of the shit spit from the end of my pen. I'm independent of any man of amenities. I'm an enemy. I'm just a pissed off vet with a mind like machetes. Mark find me. I'm ready, flow hard, and it's heavy, so scarred like vendetta.
He's actually a talented
nice.
smith. So, you know, but
Yeah.
we even used that in one of the experiences where, yeah, we lost power and we were just like, Luke, get up there and rap.
That was the DJ set though,
That was
wasn't
the
it?
DJ
Okay.
set.
That was during
Yeah.
That was the DJ set.
Yeah, it was the DJ set. But I'm just to the point that like we all provide, you know, support for each other and whatever is happening. And if something, you know, weird happens, someone can jump in with their own little
Tyler's
bit
up
of
there
magic.
beatboxing, and he's
Harmonica
playing
came through.
Yeah.
playing
Yeah.
the yeah.
That was an ecstatic dance set that happened, but you know, it's just to show that each one of us really is there to kind of jump in as needed if something funky happens in the environment.
Mm.
Yeah, and just make it work. Yeah. And that's fun when that happens, right? It makes it different. It expands the experience as needed. Yeah. Well, I'm curious, Tyler. I know that you have Ableton Live that you use, and maybe even if people don't know how to use the program, it might be kind of cool to visually see one of your projects. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, sure. Let's see if the audio will come through here.
Yeah,
Is down to teach Ableton to anyone, anytime.
it's a great program. Yeah, it's really intuitive, and especially actually if you're not a musician, you know, it's great for looping and moving things around. And yeah,
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's just infinite, you know, anything that you want to do, you can do with it. And it's just been super helpful for us. Everything I learn as we're going on this journey, I'm worried we'll never put the album all the way out because I'm like, oh, that would be so cool to add. You know, we just got to put this album out so we can make another one because yeah, there's so many cool things we can always be adding. But yeah, I mean, essentially here, like looking at just like each layer. I've got some pads here that are just long extended pads that I feel like serve the subline. Let's see if we can hear them. Zoom up.
got it.
Yeah, so yeah, we got some pads. This one, let's see. They're in here. There's a pad and yeah, here's the pads. These are the pads frozen together, just pads. And it started out a lot of just pads, and then the hertz range. I'm gonna turn it up just so you can hear. So this is the 528 hertz, just tone that just goes the whole time. It's basically a bowl, but I just made it here in operator. So I just made the sound of that note, and then I have this here that's making it. You hear how it's kind of fluctuating like a bowl. So I can just move that and hold it together throughout the whole track. Just balance with that 528 hertz, which is like a lot of the research I did about the chakra systems and the sound that relates to them is there's a hertz range that relates to each one. But the note isn't the same note. Like in a frequency range, you know, you have these notes. Each note is at a certain part. Let's see if I can get this to show us this example here. So each note, there we go. You see how on the band down here? Here. This note, that's 290 hertz. Each note has its own hertz range. So what's really interesting that I've learned about this, and sound healers listening, you know, I'm always trying to better understand what is building the space for containers. for people to heal and for the chakra system. We're always asking people like, well, yeah, what was it like? And they don't have a lot for us because they're so lost in the sauce. And I'm always just wondering, like, is this really doing what we set the intention for? So I'm always down to hear other people's thoughts on this too. But essentially what I learned is that there's these hertz ranges that represent each chakra. And then the bowls are in their own notes tuned to the 444 hertz reference as the range. And so my solution to tap into what the science of the chakra system and all the research that I did with the hertz range, my thought was, okay, well, I'll just have that hertz range just play, and then we'll tune the sub to the 444 hertz bowl, and then we'll have them work together. So it creates that binaural kind of like a sound hitting your ears at different times, just slightly. So it creates that binaural effect, like binaural beats. And each track, I have this tone just playing. Yep, so that's a layer here. Here's some Foley, just random sounds of the solar eclipse. I just like took a bunch of sounds like while the eclipse was happening because it was birds and nice things happening. Let's see if you can hear.
We've recorded waterfalls that we've come upon while we were traveling, and there's some waterfall sounds in the second chakra for the water element. So we're tapping in elementally as well. There's a lot that goes into it, as you can see. Like,
There's
I
actually
really geeks out on this stuff.
there's actually in the water track, there's with Ableton, you can put videos in Ableton and use the audio from the video. And when we were on the last tour, Luke jumped into this water naked, and we got a video of him swimming naked in this, jumping in.
Ice water.
Yeah, it's ice water, right? So in the solar or in the sacral track, there's actually a video of Luke jumping naked into water.
Bare ass.
Audible. It's audibly implanted into the track, and you can just hear the water and the waterfalls. But here's like example of like
fun. We're not all serious. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? We really do like to have some fun.
Yeah, just to zoom out on the sounds here. All right, so I got some keys things happen where I played the keys during the eclipse. It just felt right. Just playing. I felt like I needed to do something during the eclipse there. Here's like this lady Melody doing some really small little vocal things. And this vocal thing, I told her, I was like, we need to crack open through the soil to get to the sunlight. And so she does this noise. With the horns. But yeah, so we have here a violin from this lady, and she did some vocal stuff too. Got some sax over here. Got another violin from it's crazy. We did all these sessions in different times with different musicians, and it's just surreal to me how, as I'm editing it in, you know, like completely different sides of the country, completely different environments, completely different rooms, different people, they're playing over this 11-minute track that has no like indicating moments necessarily. It's just an open noodle session. And when I put them together, it sometimes sounds like these musicians are in the room together, bouncing off of each other, and they didn't even have each other's sound to reference. It's really special how a lot of this stuff is lining up. So here's a different violin. Martin has like a different kind of energy with his violin. So between him and Nanette, like it comes in differently. And here's what the sub looks like. This is the sub slowly getting louder. It just comes in at the same time range, you know, it's just coming in. Just comes in and goes out, and it just keeps doing. And then I cut it here. So there's a moment once the fire starts, I have the fire crackle because Adrie's talking about fire. So once the fire starts, I let the sub come down a little bit, and it comes back in, and it rides out till the end. And I just made those subs in here with just one long note and the 528 hertz attached to the sub. Got some flutes, got some bowls, got some cello. Cello really pulls. I just love the cello. Jordan Hamilton just one take, just noodled over the first 4 tracks.
Jordan's on another one.
He's just, yeah,
Jordan
definitely.
Hamilton, you're definitely, if you're into music, and
Check him out.
check him out for sure. He's has a really incredible
Vibe, everything.
yeah,
He's
and
down to get experimental. You know, he was
Yeah.
telling me, and I would love to talk more about this too with you, Natalie. I see you do orchestra stuff. I would, first of all, huge goals to one day do this with a full orchestra. Oh my lord.
yeah.
But Jordan was telling me, he's like, you know, not many orchestral musicians would do this. Like, you can't, like, a lot of them need to read sheet music and they need to be told exactly what to play. But just to
It's
tell
true. Yeah.
orchestral musician noodle for 11 minutes in a scale with no rhythm, he was like, he's like, just careful who you ask to do that.
Oh yeah. Totally.
Yeah, he's a
Totally.
special one. He does like hip hop cello and stuff and a bunch of
Wow.
really cool stuff. But yeah, I got some gongs.
And then Adrienne and I are the exact opposite. We can't read music. We
Mm.
don't even know what we're looking at right
No,
now.
we love it when Tyler stuff because
We just kind of nod and we're like, yeah.
I often say like it's pretty magical what happens because not one of us could do this experience alone. Like it's really incredibly special thing. And not to mention all the other musicians that are on the tracks. But you know what Tyler brings to this experience, what Luke brings to this experience, my background in yoga and yogic philosophy and yogic energy systems. I mean, we couldn't do this without each other. So
Yeah.
it's really amazing what we each bring and how it flows and combines together is pretty special. So
That's the medicine, right? That is the medicine. That's the collective part of it.
Yeah.
You three, but also, as you were saying, these other people that have played at different times in different places, different dimensions, all being kind of put together to enhance each track. And yeah, I would not have known that when I listened to the solar plexus one this morning and I was in this beautiful cocoon. The interaction, the intertwining of the instruments, you would think that they were all in this space together. So that's really cool to hear how you made that work and put it together just to work so beautifully. That is the medicine, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's so special to hear it received that way too, because I'll tell you, like, they're 11-minute songs, and every time I have to go, I've listened to the 11-minute song like 500 times at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and there's 7 of them. So
Yeah.
that's
every time I'm like, okay, yeah, we should put cello here. I got to listen to like 6 minutes of it to see if it really sits where it's supposed to. And so I've just done so much listening and so much putting things together that the amount of time that I've taken with it, now I've gotten to the point where I like some of the tracks, like I'm kind of tired of listening to them in a way. And so it really helps me to hear people receive it so well. It helps me hear it with a fresh set of ears when I hear people say things like what you said this morning, and just to have it received and to do this experience live with these guys is really helping me continue to love them and continue to hear more things that can be happening with them and continue to build them. It's a really interesting dynamic for anyone else who releases music that's listening, you know, just like the whole dynamic of deciding when something's done and putting it out versus continuing to add things and work on it. It's something I'm constantly battling with, is like, all right, is this done? It could be done, but is it really done? How many people got to tell me that it was powerful for them for me to say, okay, this is ready?
I can leave it. Yeah, I can move on. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
But-
Tyler, you probably, I mean, I don't know how many hundreds of hours you have in the studio, but Tyler came to our lo-fi sound experience last night where it's just the sound instruments that Luke and I do. So it was the first time he really got to lay down for the full thing. And afterwards he said, okay, we need to redo the whole thing. And we're like, no, Tyler, no. Hundreds and hundreds of hours in the studio. He's like, we need to redo
The next project. Yeah. The next project. Yeah. Finish this one first. And yeah.
I'm just so happy to share it. I'm just so happy to see it received, and it's been really nice. And we got the solar plexus is coming out next week.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
currently
cool.
the root and the sacral are out on Spotify, and we launched the first guided version as well as the unguided. We're going to be dialing in that sacral guided experience too. I really want to put it out in a way for people to follow the flow in their own way. Meditation for me has very much always been like putting on a 1 or 2 hour sound experience on somewhere from a musician I like and just like sitting on my mat. And so I really want to build an experience that people can just put on and just sit and work on their visions and their intentions and understanding what they're using their energy on. Like for me, everything I've done has come from these moments where I'm sitting on the floor with a whiteboard or with like an intention for the session, and I go in and I listen and I just let things come through. And I just really want to make something that does that for people, where people can just put it on and just it can help them unlock things and unleash their visions and things that they want to bring to the world and just see what they have. So we have the unguided version, and then we have the guided version that includes all of the poses and the breath work and things like that. That's been a tough one too, because we've got, you know, 30 sessions or so where Adri has done the same flow but says different things at different times. And some days she's like really tapped into the sound, and it like she'll be like, and then the vibration, and then right when she says vibration, the sub comes through. So it's been interesting taking pieces from different yoga flows and putting them together from different rooms and different environments. But I'm excited to share that, and I hope that it really can be that bridge for people who are trying to get into yoga too, and just people that don't know much about it. I really would love to build an abstract art form delivery of this, where it's a YouTube video where you can see the poses, you're guided through them, you can listen, and people can choose whether they want to be guided in through it or not. So we're working on putting that out, and we are going to be finishing it as much as possible.
Got a
on
few
the
of those
road.
videos shot too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Little beach videos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very
we
cool.
could share the link for that. It's kind of cool. Luke and I went out, and we live in right on Lake Michigan, and
Right.
we have sand dunes,
Beautiful. Yeah.
you know, all kinds of like cool things. So we shot some video to go along with some of the tracks and out in our environment. And it was just like magical just to go out in the sand dunes, and we found a giant tree, and I was sitting on the tree roots for the root track. And then we went out and did the second chakra, and it was raining, and there was like one thing where I'm kind of working through like moving energy through cat and cow, and there's a lightning bolt that it looks like it's going right into my tailbone, you know, from the video that we shot. So the whole thing has just been such a gift and a blessing, I think, to each of us, and in our own personal journey of understanding yoga and energy and meditation.
And every time we do one of these, a new endeavor or add a new thing or do this, it's like something special happens, like the lightning strike, or just something where I don't know if maybe that stuff is always happening and we're just more conscious at the time, but it definitely feels like every time we decide that we're going to do something with this specific thing, something magical kind of happens.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I can feel that. As you were saying that, I was just thinking about everything you've all put into this, the intentionality, and I can just feel the energy resonating off of you as you're all talking about this. It's like you're being supported. It's like you're getting messages, little, and again, I think they all are always there. We just don't necessarily see them or notice them when we're not tuning in. But the universe is saying, yeah, keep going, keep going. Yeah, here's a little magic for you to remind you that you're doing the right thing. And what's really exciting is, you're in it, you're doing it, you're traveling, you're offering, but you also have all these kind of future things that you're already knowing you're going to do and collaborate with together. Obviously, you have the next 4 energy centers to release and do, and videos. But also these ideas of what you want to do next too. So I imagine it feels pretty exciting. It's all just driving you.
An incredible experience, just on a personal level, and then getting to share that just is like the icing on the cake for sure.
Yeah. That's amazing. Well, I want to welcome you guys. I'm sure you actually drive through Iowa from time to time. I want to welcome you here to my studio anytime. And I can think of 2 exceptional places that would love to have your your experience in Des Moines and Iowa City. So yeah, reach out if you think it would ever work out on your schedule. I'd love to experience it in person, honestly. So yeah, keep me posted next time you're traveling through.
Yep,
sure,
let's
will
get that
do.
orchestra rounded up. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me write the sheet music for this whole thing.
Yeah, right. No, I think yeah, sheet music is great, right? And to orchestrate things. And I'm working on a major project right now. Talk about, it's ready to go. I've been working on it for like 5 years. There is actually sheet music and orchestra music arranged for it, but then kind of like how you have your structure, right? There's also the intuitive, the shamanic drums and the vocals and things that come in, so it's really interesting to hear about your balance of electronic, elemental sounds, nature sounds recorded, and then acoustic instruments. It's just really a beautiful balance of the range of
We're kind of all,
vibrations and experiences,
yeah,
Yeah.
we're kind of reaching into all these separate cultures.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just merging, it's blending.
Right,
Yeah.
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 Everything that Tyler's done, he's always tried to pull a little bit of yoga, a little more mindfulness in, a little bit, in the festival scenes and the electronic music, just a little bit more like, you know, why are we doing this? And there's no wrong answer. That's the beauty of all this stuff is like there's no judgment, there's no wrong answer. It's just the question that why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Why are you smoking the cannabis? Why are you going to the dance party? Why are you doing this? And it could just be because I want to relax, I want to have fun. But being conscious of it kind of like it puts you more like it's just a different frame. You just
Yeah.
feel so much more connected to what you're doing, and it just feels more meaningful. I don't know if it,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
you're
Well,
you're
I think,
interacting.
and I think about like, why do I do what I do? Why have I chosen a life of teaching yoga and sound healing and all the meditation, breath work, So for me, like on the deep level, I feel that people who are working on their own healing and understanding their energy and their reactivity and their, what in yoga we call samskaras.
Mhm.
And the way that, the word scar is right in there. So these little hurts that have happened along the way, these little bits of damage that create impressions on us, and then they color our whole worldview,
Yeah.
essentially, is what that boils down to. That when we start to work on our own healing and we become more harmonious with our environment and the way that we're receiving, and we understand that what's coming from the exterior is not really ours, right? Solar plexus is about digestion physically in the body, but also like digesting your experiences. Can you uptake what feels like beneficial and nutritional to your own essence? And then can you eliminate what is essentially the crap? you know?
Yeah.
So when people start to be able to do that, and they become more masterful at life, and life naturally becomes more beautiful, not in pushing away negative experiences or difficult experiences, but being able to uptake what is in the interest of your own healing and eliminate what is not. In my opinion, that is how we save the world. Like, not to overstate it, but how are we going to save this world? I think we can all agree it's not through dropping more bombs on people. It's not through any of that. Or creating this side and that side and saying this is the right way and this is the wrong way. That's never going to ultimately
It's just
heal
more
and save the
connection.
world. It's as we become more healed and more beautiful, and our energy becomes more beautiful and harmonious. In my opinion, that is how we save the world.
Yeah. Mm.
Deep.
Real strong.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And that statement in itself has a ripple effect, has a resonance that you're putting out there. That's beautifully said. Yeah, it's such a individual, personal experience that is a collective experience, isn't it? All of this work, we're each, and you are each offering your individual magic that just affects the collective. It's really, really beautiful and inspiring what you all are doing. It really is. Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah, I'm excited to keep it going, and I feel like it's really important to fuse these practices of partying and listening to music and gathering with community. Is so important for people just to have these moments of life affirming joy,
Yeah.
and then to bring
Mm.
in these healing modalities, bringing the sound system community into the yoga studio and bringing the yoga studio into the high fidelity audio. There's spiritual practices on both sides of that coin, and for them to combine it's important to me and them, and I hope that people can see that and want to help us with that experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's definitely not static. It's
Mm.
interactive,
It's
so
ecstatic.
it is ecstatic.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, wow. Amazing.
Shanti,
Oh,
shanti,
Shanti.
shanti.
We can't wait to jam with you, Natalie.
Oh, can't wait. I'm ready. Yeah, come on over. Come my way or I'll come your way.
For
Yeah,
sure.
eventually.
I'll bring some tools, bring some instruments. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. So nice to meet you. I feel like I've already known you and I'll see you again soon, I'm sure. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Really
thank you.
appreciate your time. Have a
Appreciate it.
wonderful adventure ahead. I'm sure you will.
Yes.
Okay. Be well.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Peace.
Peace. Thanks so much for tuning into this 5-year anniversary episode of Sounds Heal Podcast, sponsored by the Om Shop and Spa. You can keep up to date with what's coming up next at soundshealstudio.com. You can follow and check out things at Facebook, Sounds Heal Studio, Instagram at Natalie Brown, Sounds Heal, on YouTube, on the Sounds Heal Studio channel. And thanks again for supporting this podcast. Be well and stay tuned.